You're very welcome to the Competent Women Ireland's Woman to Woman panel with me, Roshan the cleric, and our regular panel guests joining me are Rosemary, who has a background in PR and events and has spent her 20s living in California and the majority in San Francisco. Rosemary is a mum with grown-up children. And Sabina Devine. Sabina was in charge of putting on the events around the Dublin Pride festivals back in 2013. She was also a volunteer with Dublin Pride for many years previously and helping with events stewarding with the Pride Parade. And Annaïg Birdy is a lesbian and women's rights activist and co-founder of Not All Gays and the Irish LGB advocacy group, and who just happens to be the beautiful daughter of our panel guest for this show. And our panel guest is indeed Estelle Birdy, who is one of Ireland's leading writers, poets, and a yoga teacher and a mother of four. She has been living and working in Dublin since 1988, and she is always and forever Louth and Proud. Her poetry and short stories have been published in various literacy and anthologies. I now said it wrong again, ladies.
Don't worry.
Anthologies. Estelle was a winner of the 2020 Irish Writers' Centre Novel Fair, and with her debut novel, Ravelling, which will be published in Lilliput Press on the 9th of May in 2024 this year. She is a book critic, writer with the Sunday Independent, the Irish Times, and the Sunday Business Post Weekly. Her lifestyle and political opinion writing has appeared in the Irish Independent, the Irish Examiner, and again in the Sunday Business Post. Estelle was appointed to the Arts Council peer panel for literature in 2022 and has been a member of the Irish Book Awards Voting Academy since 2020. Estelle, you are most welcome to the Competent Women Ireland's panel.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, we're delighted to have you, especially as you are one of our panelist mothers as well. And it's really because you are one of Ireland's leading writers, poets, and we all follow you on the Twitter and
I don't know where you're getting that, Roisin. I'm not one of Ireland's leading writers. Jesus.
Well, we are calling you one of Ireland's leading writers.
Okay, but it's a lie. But anyway, never mind.
Well, you are. But you're also very well known and within, the Twitter community and also within women's rights here in Ireland and standing up for women's rights. And so, you're really a strong woman, an independent woman, but you're a writer and you're a mother. And then you must be very proud of your mom too, just like your mom's proud of you.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was proud of her. You put words in my mouth now as well. I was proud of her. Of course I'm proud of her. Of course I'm proud of her.
Yeah, you are. And we all know that as well. We all know that. So, but you love writing. So we'd love to know. We'll start at the beginning, then we can all join in and have a panel discussion. But
sure.
Where did you're originally from Louth, as I said in the intro, and then you went to Dublin in 1998. So where did your love of writing come from?
I don't know. I was just always really into writing. Like when I was very small, I learned to read and write very young. So, and I was actually born in London, and I moved home with my parents. My parents are both Irish, and when we moved home, I could already read and write. That was from my mom, and then I would have always been writing. Like I just wrote stories for my own pleasure. Like when I was, in junior infants, what is now junior infants, and so I just would have always just been writing, and I would have got lost in writing. I was found under the table in junior infants. The whole place had packed up and all the chairs were on the tables, and my mother was outside waiting for me, and they couldn't find me, and I was in a corner underneath the table writing stories, and I had missed the end of school, the bell, everybody clearing up, absolutely everything, because I was just lost, lying on my belly writing. And so that was always the way. And then I started a newspaper when I was in 5th class, the Birdy and Benny Express. And I revealed for the first time actually there a couple of weeks ago at a party my guilt over this. We gathered money, we typed it up ourselves and we charged money for it, and like we sold out of the copies of the Birdy and Benny Express. And we were supposed to, you know, most people were buying it because we were supposed to be giving it to Young Line. Do you remember Young Line, the kind of
magazine, wasn't it?
adolescence program? You remember it, Rosemary? Yeah.
I remember that name. Yeah. Was Ray McAnally a part of that?
Yeah. Not Ray, Angus McAnally.
Angus McAnally, yeah.
And I don't remember who else were the presenters of it. But anyway, it was on in the afternoon on RTE, and they had some kind of a project, you know, a charity thing, gathering money for. So it could have been Cambodia. I would have been Cambodia at that time, probably.
Yeah, probably
anyway,
would have been.
It was for something. Anyway, they had this.
The Far East.
Yeah, for gathering people, for gathering money. Anyway, and I said it was going to this, to Young Line, to the money was going to that, and we did gather. Like, it was only about £7, but it was a lot. Like back then, 1981, you know, and so I had that in my room, and I always intended to send it to them, but it was kind of siphoning, you know, 10p out here and there, and eventually it was all kind of gone. And so Young Line never got that money.
Well, Young Line of sorts got it, you know.
Yeah.
You know. Sure, I sent my children out when they were little. I hope the neighbours aren't listening, but when they were little, they got dressed up in those cheap Santa suits you got in the pound shop, and they went around and they were singing carols, and they made 60 quid, and they told them it was for the poor children in Africa. And it was for themselves.
I have a cousin who went down to the church and arrived up to my auntie's house. I won't say the names of the cousin and the auntie. Arrived up asking would they come down to the church and sort out their son. And he was down at the church with a white stick and dark glasses, collecting for the blind. And he's not blind, obviously. Like,
he's probably a millionaire now, is he?
No, he's not, but he's still as mental. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
After you became a writer and an entrepreneur then at a young age, how did it develop on further?
Well, then I was just always good at English, you know, and like I would have won a couple of prizes and that, and I always expected that I would be a writer. And everybody around me, like all my friends who are still my friends now, they would have all expected me to be a writer. And then it's kind of hard to know how to become a writer, you know, like how do you become a writer? So the only thing I could think of was like journalism, and then I ended up doing law after school. And then I wrote for a little bit for Ms. Chief, this feminist review thing. So I wrote for them a little bit, but then it just all kind of fizzled out, and then life happens, you know, you get a job doing something else, and you know, it's pushed to the wayside. And but then, you know, social media and that, there's an outlet then to be writing stuff. And so I would have written bits and pieces, and then I entered one competition, I think probably 2010 or 11, the Fish competition, short story competition. So it'd be a very well-known competition, and I got longlisted. So that was my first like creative writing thing for like decades, probably.
Wow.
And I got longlisted. And then I did bits and pieces and was like on the Bogman's canon, and that was like non-fiction stuff, you know. It's kind of essays that I'd been writing, and that's about it until, you know, things weren't really happening. I had some money. You had to do an entry to get into creative writing in UCD and the masters, and I got in there. In the meantime,
Wow.
I'd done the master's program in Trinity in linguistics, and then 2018 I went into creative writing in UCD, and that was life-changing because there you're just told you've just got to send your stuff out. You've got to, you're
Wow.
doing that, like that. That's the trigger,
Mm.
that was the trigger that I kind of needed. Obviously taught really well, by great tutors and all of that. But the thing is to learn to have the courage to just keep sending stuff out. And
Mm.
rejection isn't a problem for me. Like it's water off a duck's back, so I don't have a problem with that. But it was to be, I needed to be told you've just got to start sending stuff out. And as soon as I started sending stuff out, I was getting shortlisted and, into anthologies and stuff. So things were obviously fine.
Amazing.
And then the novel then was it was actually started in UCD, and so the first 3 chapters were my thesis in 2019, and then I entered the novel fair and won. So in 2020, it was the 2020 novel fair, but it was in 2019 that I entered. And
Wow.
anyway, so I won that, and that was the rest is history. Then I met, loads of people, but the most significant was meeting Lilliput Press, and we got on like a house on fire, and here we are. It's
Amazing.
been a long road though, like
Yeah.
Lilliput. There's been
Mm.
ups and downs, like because mostly because of me, just stuff was happening, and it should have been out in 2021, but I wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. And so now it's going to be out in May.
And a big launch.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it will be a big launch. Yeah, it's going to be a big party. It's been a long time coming, Roisin. So obviously you're all
And a
invited.
tour? Are you doing a tour? A book tour?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that would be later. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know how it's going to go. Like, so.
No, but like I think it's great that Lily put her on board because they're a really good publisher. They're big, aren't they?
No. They're a small
Are they
independent
not?
publisher. Yeah. No, they're not big.
Would
No.
they not be doing some publicity for you? No.
Oh, they will. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I have a
Good.
publicist and whatever. Yeah. But they're still a small independent publisher.
You really
No.
need to, get the word out then, we'll
Yeah,
all
but
help.
it's not necessarily that if you're with a big publisher, plenty of people are with
No.
big international publishers and they don't
Yeah.
get the care and attention that my book has got.
Good.
And that was a
I can't
decision.
wait to
That was a
read it, I must
decision for
say.
me that I wanted to be with them. It was a gut feeling thing. I didn't wait to get an agent. I negotiated my own deal, and
Wow.
if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't gone with my gut and been with Lilliput, I know I wouldn't have got, and my book wouldn't have, that was the important thing, wouldn't have got the attention that it did, and I wouldn't have been linked with the editor that I was, Colin Farron, who is just the best editor
Wow.
ever for
What's his name?
me. Farron.
Colin Farrell?
No, Farron. Farron with an EN at the end.
Damn.
And it was through him, through his connection with his partner, that I ended up that the book is optioned for a TV deal. So for a TV show. So none of that would have happened if I hadn't taken that step and ignored everybody, and not waited to see would I get some big UK publisher or whatever, and that
Wow.
So
I
everything was as it should
don't know
be,
what it's like. I can't wait to see what it's like. But I know that you from just reading your writing that you have a really, really sharp wit, and I can't wait to read it. I just can't.
Well,
It's
Annaig's
gonna
read
be
it. Annaig's read
it's
it.
gonna be epic.
Yeah,
Have you? And don't tell us. Don't tell us.
Hold on, sorry, my phone is going crazy here.
She's frozen.
She's frozen.
Hold on.
That'll be the Botox.
Don't have Botox. But
just slightly overdid it there on the Botox.
it's a great book. I love it, but
She has to say that.
you know, and well, I could say it's really bad as well. Like I could do that, like, but no, it's genuinely really good, and I think it's because like I would know kind of the process that was gone through to get the characters developed, and it's based in where I grew up, so it's really nice to see, and it's funny, and you can see like the personalities and the area and stuff. It's really good. It's funny, but there's a great storyline, and the way that it's done, it's great. But it is
I love
also
those kind of books. Yeah.
you can really feel the characters.
With real Dublin sense of character, you know, that Dublin character
Oh, stuff.
Yeah.
and the
the
sense
best.
of humour.
Would it be available on audiobook?
I'd say so, Sabby. Like,
Because I listen to audiobooks because I'm dyslexic, so I find it difficult to
Oh,
concentrate.
yeah, yeah.
And I'd really like to listen to your book.
Yeah,
Somebody
you
has
know?
to read it then.
Mum? Sorry,
Somebody
what?
would have to read it then, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how an audiobook is done, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but usually they
I'd
ask
say
the
probably
author.
they'd have to have a few people. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not the kind of book because it's multi-voiced, so it's like
Yeah.
five young fellas.
Did you ever hear Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow?
No,
It's the Harvey Weinstein thing where
right.
he was. It's Ronan Farrow is Mia Farrow's son, you know, and I listened to it. It's one of the most amazing podcasts. You've got to listen to it, and he does all the voices himself. He does the Russian guy. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I'd highly recommend it. Even if you, I would listen to it for free. I think it was on Amazon Prime or Audio or whatever you call that thing, Audible.
Yeah,
But
Audible, yeah.
I'd highly recommend it. It's absolutely fantastic now. But like it's like because I got a shock when he starts imitating the Israeli spy that was following him around. You know, like it's
Yeah.
fucking mad shit.
I just don't think it would. My book would.
I
work
No,
with
no, I'm
me
not
Yeah,
reading.
saying
no,
you.
I
Fine.
just
But
as
yeah,
someone who's
Sabby,
read
it will
I
be.
don't
It
think
will be eventually. Like it, you know, that'll be after it comes out in
Mm.
print. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it
Yeah.
takes time for audiobooks to come out anyway.
yeah,
Well,
the
we'll all be at your at the launch and the signing of your book anyway. We'll all be there.
good.
I'll still buy your book. I am.
yeah, that's the important thing,
It
Sabby.
would just take me all year to read a book. That's the only thing. So I
Yeah,
listen.
but you have to buy audiobooks as well, like, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But I will buy the
I'm
audiobook
dyslexic.
when it comes out.
yeah, brilliant.
I'm dyslexic, but if I get a really good book that has a real good, especially Irish books that have that Dublin sense of humour. When I remember I took a book on holidays in 2020, and I was out in the balcony in a hotel in Shadani, and I had the book up there, and I was laughing so hard. My daughter said, "Will you stop laughing? Will you stop laughing?" I said, "I can't stop laughing." If the book, and that's how I imagine your book will be. Will I just be full of laughter? But that's like Dublin sense of humour, isn't it? That's what I'm getting from you from that book.
Yeah, yeah. I can read a little bit of it.
Do
Yay!
Yeah, can I read a little bit of it?
Yeah, read the beginning.
No, I won't read the beginning. Rosemary,
no,
Read the last.
Rosemary, you are not the boss of me.
Read the last page. Read
Okay, so I'll read this little bit.
Sorry.
I don't think it's too long. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is too long. Okay,
No,
right,
no.
I'll read this little bit, and if
thought that
I'm
was
going
it.
on too long, just tell me to shut up, okay? This is a casual kind of event we're having here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oisin looks up at the sign above the gate. St. Killian's Hurling Club. Might as well, since he's come this far. Might as well. Maybe the only way to get Dino to cop himself on. He's been missing so much school. Too much, even for him. Being proper sketch. And the last time Oisin knocked into June's flat, Dino was down the landing, talking to that scruff, snitchy noble. Dino said he was just talking, but you know. Oisin's even said it to his mom. She said Oisin should try talking to Dino, and that maybe he's depressed, and maybe the whole thing with Jack and all that was just too much for him. Get him and Hams around for some jambalaya on Friday, she said. But Dino made some excuse. He's tried talking to him online, but there's not much opportunity for real talk while you're playing COD. If Dino throws everything away like some dumb fuck when he's not some dumb fuck, Oisín'll kill him. Stupid fucking waster. There are fellas and young ones already racing all over the acres of playing fields in front of him. Adults, kids, poshies, normals, flats, running round cones, pucking balls at walls. He feels a wobble in his belly coming back after months away. Long for him. Then he sees him, sitting alone on the curb like a daddy longlegs, putting on his boots. Ah, here, what the fuck? Am I seeing things, am I? Dino says. It is a ghost. Is it a ghost or what? An apparition. All right, says Oisín, smirking. Please, mammy, save me. It's some kind of zombie or some undead thing. Ha ha, fucking hilarious, Dino. Any sign of your ma then? Nah, didn't think so. Saw her sucking cocks behind the counter in Spar there a few minutes ago, so you know, she won't be down here anytime soon. Fuck off. Yeah, you fuck off. Fuck, no ma slagging with Dino, just slipped out. Thought you were dead, it's been so long. Whacker's been asking for you. Why haven't you been here this years? Months, and you saw me the other day at school, when you turned up for an hour. Ah man, months is a long time in this game. What have you been up to? This thing called going to school, unlike you. Ah, here, harsh. Had a pain in me belly, Dino says, rubbing his green and white striped jersey. What's that you're smoking? Matt, tying his laces, Dino puts the rollie in the corner of his mouth. Popeye like, he turns to look at Oisín. Ah, yeah, it's me protein smoke, you know. Just tobacco, but no green at all this morning. Boys hammered into it last night. Another thing you missed. Going hams is after. Think he has the last of me stuff. Shrooms. Ah, man, I swear.
Ah, brilliant.
Oh, so good.
I can
I
feel
could
the
picture
characters.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely dying to get into that.
Right, good.
I when it's released, I'm going to request it for the local library, because apparently if you request books in the local library, they have to buy them for all the libraries all around Ireland.
Oh.
Yeah, they do. It's really useful, and
So-
actually, you know, we writers get paid for library withdrawals.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
they,
really?
yeah.
That's
They get,
amazing.
yeah. And libraries are really important for awards as well. I think the Dublin Literary Award, that one, it used to be the Impact Award. That's actually done by librarians. You know, that's voted by libraries around the world. Vote
That's amazing.
or
That's a great idea.
nominate their books. You know.
We could all request it in our local library.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah,
easy.
like local libraries are great. You know.
Simple thing to do, you know. I mean, and it sounds like it's absolutely brilliant. Like kids would, like people would read that more. Like it's got more so much atmosphere. It's just not like a story. It's not cold, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely not cold. That's true.
Like books with dialogue. I mean, that's the hardest thing to write. It's the most difficult, especially I think blokes get that wrong a lot. You know, when I read books, conversations, like there's a few men like that get it right, but you always know if it's a man writing about a woman or a conversation. Like there was, I don't know, not that many writers are good at it.
That was brilliant.
That's
You know?
it. Yeah, dialogue is actually, I find dialogue, because the characters were so in my head.
Yeah.
That was fine, and I'm
you could
hearing
end up
these
writing
people around me
plays
all
and
the time,
everything.
so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. There were some writers that they fall down, and could be great writing.
Yeah.
All other bits, but just the dialogue isn't right. It doesn't sound
The
right.
dialogue, and especially I find if you notice, if you read books that are mainly like a detective novel, like once they bring a romantic partner into that book, you might as well just throw the book away. I mean, it just goes off. You can't blend the romance in with a detective story. Usually it's terrible. It's usually bad because the dialogue is so bad. It just hits completely wrong, and it makes the book, it just ruins the whole book. So, has anyone read The Alphabet Murders with Sue Grafton wrote? Or
No.
the A to Z. She wrote A for alibi, B is for burglar, C is for crime, D whatever, I can't remember. And if she had a boyfriend, he was never in the books. She never had the boyfriend in the books. And it was always about one. It was the whole series, like from A to Z. Like she died on Y. And so she never wrote Z, but she never had a romance in it. And it's because the dialogue is what they always get wrong, you know, and, you know, that's why, you know, a play is different than a book, because a play has so much dialogue in it. It's all dialogue, you know, and it's really hard to get right. So
that's why the book is already been thought of for a TV program, because the dialogue is so good.
100%.
Within the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, one of the books I actually like listening to was
probably like it's dialogue heavy. So yeah.
You're frozen.
Otherwise, they need a screenwriter as well, you know.
Frozen, you saying something?
You're frozen.
Saying something, Annaïg?
You're frozen.
I'm frozen. Oh, okay.
So there you're back.
Well, I don't look frozen.
You're back
to me.
now. You're back now, I think.
Frozen again.
You're frozen again.
Okay.
There you're back. You're
Kim.
back still. Yeah, the book is really that's probably why, you know, that would make a brilliant Irish television. Is it going to be a series or a film? Do you think?
Series, I think.
Yeah, like a TV show. Yeah, 3. Oh, hold on. Shite. You can edit that out, Roisin, if you want. There we go.
There
the cable fell out and the battery isn't working in the computer, in the laptop.
Well, I have that problem. I've got a laptop like that too. So, yeah, so where did you get your inspiration from for this book? I know you're in UCD and things, but where did you get the inspiration for this particular book?
Well, I was actually, it is mostly, it's just people around me and just incidents around, like most of the incidents, especially the funny incidents, are real life that either happened to me or that have been stories that have been relayed to me. But when I was actually thinking I wanted to write about young fellas, was you know, they're 18, they're in their leaving cert year in a city centre boys' school, and like a fictional school, but like in the city centre near where I live. And anyway, one day I was coming home from work when I was back in work. So I don't even know what year it was. It was on Stephen's Green anyway, and it was in the evening, and it started snowing, and the snow wasn't sticking and that, but it was heavy for a little while, just a snow shower. And I got talking to this young man, I think he was 22. We had a long chat anyway, me and him. Like, he was begging, you know, he was homeless, and he was just sitting there. We had a big long chat, but while we were chatting, loads of people were passing by. Nobody was talking. He was sitting on the ground, and I was then I was crouched down beside him eventually. But anyway, we were having the crack, and this young fella teenager, came in from behind me, skirted in between the two of us, managed to drop change, and he dropped a chunk of change into his hat, and then went on down by the Lewis pathway, you know, on where the Lewis shelter is there on Stephen's Green. But he didn't break stride, and I said to your man, he was wearing, you know, too short, he was wearing the uniform, too short tracksuit bottoms, and he had the chicken walk and the fade, and like the whole thing. He was a young fella, probably from where he was going, the direction he was going in, probably from York Street Flats. And anyway, he toddled on, and I said, Jesus, that was really nice, because he was probably only about 15, you know, lanky kind of, and that, but he's probably only 15 or 16. And I said, Jesus, that was really nice of him. And he said, he's only a young fella. And he said to me that the fella who was 22 or whatever, he said, you'd be surprised. I get the most money from young fellas, and they're the people who come and talk to me most, is young fellas, like teenagers. And we were chatting about it, and I said, it's probably because they know that you are them, like, you know, that
it
could
is,
be
that's
them
true.
in a couple of years, like, you know, and that you're no different to them. And and he said, yeah, that's what it was. But I was just going, people don't actually think about that young fellas have, you know, they get a bad rap for a start off, especially city centre, from the flats, young fellas. And I know that they're arsing around, and they're messers, and some of them are complete arseholes, but so are lots of people, you know, men, not just men, there's either, not just men either, you know. So, but actually the majority of them are really, you know, they have big hearts, and they're really, they just get a bad rap, like, you know, just everybody is down on them. And it's all this, you know, I'm a feminist myself, and, you know, I'm all about the women's rights, and, you know, not abusing girls, and, you know, I'm very protective of that. But the boys are not all right either, and we don't operate in isolation. And, you know, if we're constantly telling boys and young men that they're bad, all the time, they're going to say eventually, well, I might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. And, you know, like, I would, if everybody was saying that I was just, you know, just an asshole the whole time, and just constantly going on about, like, how misogynistic everybody is. And, you know, when most of them just want to.
Most to me, like, I can't even tell you a story because I'll cry too much. But I have a story I'll tell you sometime about two young fellas that helped me once. I can't even talk now because I'll cry. But unbelievable kindness, like, gosh, you know, just one time, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. They were about 40, you know.
Yeah.
And
you know, like, it's
in the
just
city centre, and they were really young, and I asked them, why are you helping me? And they said, because if we don't help each other, who's going to help us?
Yeah.
You know?
And I was on the Lewis. You talk about that. I was on the Lewis. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I was on the Lewis up in Dublin, getting the train back from, is it Abbey Street back to Houston? No, the Abbey Street back to the Red Cow. And what I noticed was, on the way in, it was the young fellas telling other young fellas to get up from the chair and let a woman sit down. And it was young fellas telling other people, could they get out of the way to let women out with the prams, and older women out of the Lewis. And I noticed it was the men, and it was the young fellas. And I just thought, wow, you know, they get, like you said, they get a bad rap, but my God, they were the ones on the Lewis looking out for the women. And I thought that gave me.
Yeah, and I think if you expect more of them, if you expect more of them, and expect them to act with decency, they do act with decency. And if you're not constantly telling them, you know, oh my God, the patriarchy is doing this and that to me. If I hear another iron-haired South Dublin girl who's just walked out of Trinity straight into, you know, a 40 grand job in aviation leasing or whatever, going on about the fucking patriarchy, when there's young fellas, tell the young fellas down in the flats about their white male privilege, and how the patriarchy is helping them. You know, it's just nonsense, you know, this.
Yeah.
Well, now
It's
it's
all about
like,
money.
I mean, we know that, we
money.
know that these things exist, and we know that misogyny exists, but to be constantly telling young men, especially, that they're bad and that they're doing something terrible to women just by existing, that doesn't help anybody, you
No.
know, it doesn't help anybody.
And
So
it
then
also
the next
diminishes
time,
everything else, you know. It
yeah,
diminishes real crime, and it diminishes any real harm that anyone's, you know, the real victims' feelings if everyone goes around being offended by the slightest,
thing,
you know,
exactly, yeah, yeah.
non-existent
Then
thing.
this one time, it was only yesterday that I remembered this. Then, and this is years ago as well. I was just walking down the road here. I was heading into town, and this fella, again in the kind of uniform, tracksuit and the, you know, the body warmer over it, and he was coming from this side down the street, and he was crying, like he was really upset, and it was in the afternoon, and he was probably 17, 18, and he was just sobbing. Now, he wasn't off his head or anything, that he was just walking along, he's wiping his nose and tears streaming down his face, and he didn't expect to see anybody, you know, and I was walking this way, and I stopped him and I said, "Are you okay?" Like, 'cause he was so upset, and he just went straight away, he went, "Yeah," and he's wiped them off, and he goes, "Yeah, no bother, no problem." And he goes on that, "Yeah, be grand." And I said, "Do you want to talk about it? Like, are you sure you're all right? You shouldn't be on your own," I said to him, "when you're this upset about whatever it is." And he said, "No, be grand." And he's doing all this, you know, with his shoulders, and then he gave me this big smile, but he was obviously so upset. And I was going, Jesus Christ, what could that be? And then only about an hour later, when I was in town, I realised it was Leaving Cert results day. And he was probably coming from Sing Street, the direction he was coming from. And obviously it hadn't gone well. And he had some piece of paper in his hand, and it was probably his Leaving Cert hadn't gone the way he wanted it. But he was so upset, like, and I was just going, Jesus Christ, you know, putting that much pressure, and he was sobbing, and he was the kind of fella, you know, would not, unless it was something really like that had hit him hard, he would not be walking down the feckin' street in the middle of the day bawling, you know. I was just like, Jesus,
And trying to hide it.
yeah, you know, just the
Honestly,
pure
yeah.
emotion of it. And I cry thinking about him sometimes, you know, like the big face, but how he put on this brave face then, and then how he turned around to me and gave me a big smile when he didn't want to give a big smile, you know, just to, so, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, like I'm really fine," like, because I was obviously very concerned, you know. Anyway, so that's kind of where it started. And then all these young fellas would be in my house, because my son went to a local school, and yeah, so they'd always be hanging around the house, wouldn't they, Annaïg?
Yeah. All the time, just all the lads.
Yeah.
And such a great mix of like different backgrounds and stuff. Like there was always just,
yeah, the Sing Street lads. And other lads, you know, from his local school and that. And just, I've been here a long time in this area, so I know lots of people, and, you know, I've worked with the community drugs and alcohol team, and with CASA rehab team, and that, teaching yoga and other things. So I've been working and living here and raising my kids here for a long time. Since 1989, I've been living right here, you know, so
Wow.
I know all my neighbors really well, and you know, everybody knows me, and it's just, you just pick up the stories from just being around, you know, just being really embedded in your area. And it's a great area, you know, it's a really lively, huge mix of people. We have the mosque down the road, so there's a lot of Muslim people living in the area. When I moved here my second year in college in 1989, like there was still massive problems with heroin, you know, and there were no posh people living here. And over the years, like, you know, it's changed. You know, Celtic Tiger time, loads of fancy people moved in and the house prices went up and all of that crazy stuff. But there's still a real mix. It was always a working class kind of area. But there's still a mix, you know. There are the old timers still here, thankfully. I know my kids won't ever be able to afford to live in this area.
Oh, I know that feeling. My son's trying to get he went looking for houses, and he just realized that he's outpriced and everything, and he's a single guy, so he has to be in a couple. Now that even to buy a house, you have to be a couple buying a house.
Oh yeah,
It's
you
just-
can't buy on your own. And
No.
and it means that any of the people who are like working class, like, and I mean by that, you know, just normal people who need to work for a living, and then people who'd be, you know, on the dole or on social welfare or whatever as well. They're like, unless they get social housing, which there's very little of, you know, what can go up around here really quickly is student accommodation that seems to just spring up in a matter of months at, you know, 1,100 quid per room per month. Yeah, like just, and those normal people who'd be around, you know, the Liberties, their kids can't afford to ever live in the area that they're from, you know. It's impossible. I know somebody like whose son did, but he's, you know, very high up in a big accounting firm. And he got, managed to buy his house around here when the prices had crashed, you know. So he's just very lucky. But what's I'm saying, like, communities are being broken up, you know.
I couldn't afford to live in my parents' area at all. They're in South Dublin as well.
Yeah.
Like the house prices when I was looking to buy in 2013. I was lucky in a way because I suppose, like, depends on what way you look at it. I had a motorbike accident, so the settlement, I was able to buy a house out of it, but I had to move outside the county of Dublin, like, so to be able to buy a house that I could afford. But even now, like where I'm living, the house prices are like really have increased like by stupid amount, like, you know, for
Plus, like the bills we have to pay every month. Like, I don't know how anyone pays rent and electricity and gas and phone. And
my electricity is so overdue now. It's just, it's impossible.
My gas was 713 for, I just got my bill there. 713, and I have a tiny little house. Just for gas.
Mine was 597, I think.
Yeah, mine was around 700 as well. You know, and I have a fire, so I have the heating on and I have the fire. You know?
It's impossible. I don't know how people are managing it at all. You know,
I
or
don't
how
either.
older people are managing it. You know, that need to have the place properly warm all the time. You know, because you can't regulate when you get to a certain age. You can't regulate your temperature.
No.
Like, so you have to be warm. You have to have your house warm.
And you're not out at work every day. Like, you're out, you're at home.
Yeah.
You're in your home, you know, you're not working. You're not using work spells, you know, heat. You're using. Plus, you're not walking around, like, you know, doing stuff that keeps you warm, you know, hoovering and whatever. You know, you just don't move as much.
Yeah.
I'm not going around hoovering either. Not most of the time.
Now we know what your general days are filled with hoovering.
I'm all frozen tonight.
My life's dream. I've got so many fucking hoovers. You'd swear I was hoovering all the time. But I bought loads of hoovers that didn't work, you see. All these stupid little things, you know. Battery ones and rechargeable and cordless and you know, the ones on the ground, the cheap ones that, like, I had 2 of them. And then I had 2 car ones. None of them worked. None of them. I had 4 shit ones. I know. One of them worked. So I still have the one that works, but I bought a new Miele. And I've only used it twice, but it's unbelievable. I love
Miele
it.
is the way to go. They are
I'm
so
telling
good.
you. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have bought all the other Hoovers.
I
Because I was
bought
just trying
myself
to find one that would work.
Yeah.
I bought myself the Bosch Unlimited 7, like, and you can you know the big long handle thing, you know, and
Yeah.
you can actually break it in half and go under the couch, because like I was getting sick of my Dyson having to like carry a plug around and then lug the thing up and down the stairs. So I
Yeah.
find the cordless one.
Oh, wow.
good.
So you can make it like it's not got a cord anymore, kind of thing.
Well, like it's a battery operated one, but you use
All
the
right.
it's a Bosch one, so you could use, like, say if you had like power tools that was belonged to Bosch, you could use the batteries from them, so you could have them interchangeable and things like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
This is great, isn't it? Like these feminist women sitting around talking about fucking
About their
Hoovers.
Well, that's what the NCW or the National Women's Council think we're all doing. We're all changing things
I know.
for the houses, you know.
But can we go back to Hoovers here? Dyson. We had Dysons for years, right? For years. Because you thought, you know, you're kind of told that they're very expensive Dysons. And
Yeah.
then I didn't have any money. The last Dyson packed in, and I went and got a Miele one, which is much cheaper.
Much
And I
cheaper,
said to the fella, and that, is the suction going to be good from this compared to the Dyson? And the fella in the shop said, it's far better suction. You just
Yeah.
not believe it. It nearly ripped up the carpets when I
Yeah,
brought it home.
yeah. I swear.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't
don't-
believe it, like, because I went down and I said, okay, now, I said, I have just bought 4 Hoovers, so I've done my penance. Will you just please tell me the truth? I've done it all, I've paid,
Tell
I've
me the truth
away,
about Hoovers.
thrown away enough money now to get the truth, please. So he said, so I said, okay, is it I need either the Henry, the flip another yoke, or I'm going to get a Miele or this Miele or this Miele. And he goes, okay, forget about all the others and let's just go over to the Miele section. And he goes, whichever one you buy, they have the exact same strength suction. It just depends if you want like an electronic button or you want a longer cord, which is a 5-meter cord instead of a 3-meter cord. So I was like, no, just give me, I have a tiny house, just give me a fucking thing that sucks the dirt off the stairs. Will you please do that? Right? So he goes, and the thing, like, I have to turn it down now because I can't move the yoke, you know, just won't move on it. It's so, you could stick yourself to the ceiling with it, you know. But if I'd known that, I would have, like, honest to God, I feel like killing Black & Decker because don't ever buy a Black & Decker bleeding Hoover. And if they can make a drill, why can they not make a Hoover? Like, why?
Yeah, because their drills are quite good. I've got one myself.
Yeah, like they surely would take
types
more
of
power.
Actually, me and my
Technology, though, in
husband went
fairness,
out and
Rosemary.
bought ourselves matching drills one day. So I've got one in the house and then he has one in the garage. I have my own tools in the house and he's just
That
like,
is so romantic.
I know,
Isn't it?
it was the
Matching drills.
best gift ever, you know.
That is actually properly romantic. That's really good.
And then
two
we're
you
like
have-
looking at the DeWalt's and we're like, maybe we should get ourselves a DeWalt someday, you know. So we invested in an SDS DeWalt drill, like, you know, so it
Very good.
bolt into the wall. But we only can only afford one of those though, because they're quite expensive, the DeWalt's.
They go through the walls, do they?
Yeah. So like an SDS
Concrete.
drill is actually much more powerful for going into concrete.
Concrete,
Well, like, you know, normal drills, if you were using just the normal masonry bits, you could be there
Yeah.
like standing there for hours trying to get it. But this just kind of like makes the concrete melt to drill the hole through. It's just amazing. The SDS.
And it doesn't end up wrecking the whole wall around it, like, you know, the big
it does it
giant hole in the
perfectly.
middle.
It does it
Wow.
Yeah.
I need you over to my house for a while now, Sabrina, with your
Yeah.
tools and your handyman and your handy hardware store on speed dial. Tell me about me screws.
Exactly. Could you
There's
come over here? Because there's still those fucking shelves are sitting there since like Christmas 2 years ago that were meant to be put up. And I'm still sitting there in the corner of the kitchen. Like, is there any chance? I know
You
that
need three. You need three
had
people
some
for shelves.
Wait a
Three
second,
people.
Rosemary. Wait a second. I'm getting her first. Abby, like, never mind your, your mobility issues that you sometimes have. Like, just get on whatever kind of thing you need to transport and get in here with any kind of
I drive a
shelf.
car, so I'm fine.
It's just
And a
these
motorbike.
picture shelves. It's just these those little narrow ones that you put pictures on.
Yeah,
Frames thing. Yeah, I just want them up in the kitchen.
Mm.
Yeah. Like, can you not? You
Oh,
just
also, there's
I'll come with you, Sabrina.
press.
I'll hold it. I'll do the holding. Because you need to have and to hold. My mum used to say the only reason my dad married her was to have and to hold, was to hold the bloody thing while he's, Could you come and hold this for me, Kathleen?
What
Can you come
bloody
and hold
thing
it?
was he holding? Did he want her to hold? This is
It
like
was only things like bits of wood in the kitchen, believe me.
bits of
Well, that
wood.
was in front
Okay,
of us.
enough now, Rosemary. Shut her off, Roisin. She's going into like the zone that we don't want to go into.
Oh, stop.
I think
We're
your
gonna have
household,
disco lights.
Estelle,
We're
must
gonna
be
have
hilarious.
disco lights. We'll put on the disco lights here. Yeah.
Should be our dancing queen.
It's my all-inclusive rainbow light. Uh-oh. Okay, get rid of that.
Right.
So Estelle,
Anyway.
you must be happy. You're so full of comedy, right? You're just a comic, but so your household must be always laughter, a lot of jokes and everything.
Yes, Roisin, we're always
Yes,
laughing.
always laughing.
At each other or with each other?
Oh, we're constantly
together,
So
laughing.
like my house, like, as well.
We're obviously laughing and hugging each other and just being really nice to each other all the time.
All the time.
And
All
there'll
the
be
time.
times.
There is never a race.
We're out with the Mila Hoover. We have the place spotless the whole time. Always, and like messing with the Hoover, and it never stops, does it?
No, and there has never been a raised voice in this house. Like,
No.
no, it's always so much fun.
Never in this house either. We're just so happy and just typical. I think the Irish banter, though, I know from especially growing up in Derry, and I think Dublin people always remind me of Derry. If you like someone, you slag them.
Yeah.
And you wind up,
yeah.
and you have that banter with one another. And I think that's what I love about Dublin people.
Yeah, it is kind of similar in that. I think people from the north of Ireland, though, are very funny and full of humor all the time. And I think it's probably because,
the trouble.
The troubles are if you didn't laugh, because they're the most witty and willing to laugh people, I think.
Yeah.
Northern Irish people.
Well, I think
I'm from Dundalk,
Dublin,
so
a
lot of people from the north, live there, and I would have spent a good bit of time up there visiting friends and stuff up in the north. And I think it's probably it's a kind of a black kind of humor. Yeah. But it that I think that suits Irish people. So
Did you ever read Joseph O'Connor? Like, I read 2 of his books, and they're probably the books that no one else has read. I read The Salesman, and there was one about a bus. What was the one about a van? Did anyone read any of Joseph O'Connor's initial novels? Not the ones he won the awards for.
No, no. These are his early books, are they, Rosemary?
Yeah, there was one. The first one was about a family that went looking for their lost son, who had gone off with his hippie band touring South America. Right. And he had disappeared, and he was a hippie, and he had one of those rainbow vans with the flowers on them, a Scooby-Doo van.
Yeah.
And I forget the name of it anyway, but I always felt like every time they came to a town, they'd realize that the band had been there and their son, but they were gone now. And then they caught up with the band, and the band had lost track of the son. The son had stayed in another town, and turned out he was in the jail, and then he wasn't in the jail. But anyway, I kind of thought it was Joseph O'Connor it was almost like a metaphor for Sinead in a way, in sort of, I mean, in the best possible way, that they loved her so much, but she was this explorer, who wanted to go and do her music no matter what.
Yeah.
But he also wrote a really funny book called The Salesman, which is about a man in Dalkey that lives in a house in Dalkey with a shed at the bottom of his garden. And he's been blackmailed by some guy in Bray. So he decides he's going to kill the guy in Bray. So he sets it all up. He's going to meet him on the seafront, and he's going to take a baseball out of his boot and beat the guy to death, But he didn't plan it out very well. And he ends up putting the guy in the boot of the car and driving him back to his house in Dalkey and putting him in the shed in the garden. And then he has the problem of keeping him there. And he doesn't know what to do with him, and he doesn't want to let him out. So he locks him into the shed, and then he ends up like getting a few cans of cider, and he'd give him a few cans, and then they kind of became buddies. And then one day he was allowing your man to come out and paint his house, and then your man puts him in the shed.
All right.
And the whole thing was set in Dalkey, and it was absolutely hilarious because he was talking about these roads that I know, and it was just so funny because it was this completely black humor about a completely botched murder, and now he had end up with this kidnapping that he hated, and he didn't have the guts to do anything with the guy. I mean, it was just so brilliant, and I just wondered if you'd read that, because I just found
called
that
The Salesman. No, I haven't read it. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's just one that no one ever talks about, but I love that kind of book, because especially if it's set in somewhere that I recognize, and I know the streets and I know the roads, and I can just picture some guy in Bray, like some little shit in Bray blackmailing him, and just the whole thing, just brilliant. I love that kind of thing, And I loved Sing Street, the movie. That was one of my favorite. That's probably in my top 10 movies of all time. Is
Yeah,
Sing
it was
Street.
great fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Wasn't it? The music and everything.
Yeah, I thought it was great fun.
Yeah. And I would say that's why people's going to really enjoy your book, Estelle, because it is about Dublin, and it's about the centre of Dublin, and so it'll be right. People will be able to resonate with that. People even just working there, growing up there, or people who live there. It will be, oh God, yeah. And that from you reading that book, it was like we were all in them scenes. We were in the scene as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's very much about like Dublin, and particularly the Liberties Tenters area is the sixth kind of main character. But there's a lot of characters in it, but it's kind of another character all in by itself,
Yeah.
But the story isn't like, and the lads, they're universal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I mean, that's the way the TV show is being pitched, that it's very much of Dublin and the language of Dublin, and the way, like you're saying, Roisin, the way they go on. But people are the same everywhere. Young fellas are the same everywhere, so.
Just like women are the women everywhere.
Yeah.
We are women everywhere. No matter where you go, women, and mothers are mothers everywhere, no matter what nationality you are. A mother's a mother. Like my son was playing something today. He was winding me up. He was like, his father saying to him, where are you going? I'm going out with my friends. But what friends are you going with? But where are you going when you go out with your friends? And it was like the same conversation that we were having. And he was just playing it to wind me up. And they always saying them kind of things. So it's like mothers are mothers, sons are sons, friends are friends, especially, boys have different relationships with friendships, don't they, than what girls do?
Yeah, they do,
Yeah, the way they interact, and like that's when I read the book, I loved that because I could see so much of like all the lads that were in the kitchen from my brother's school. Like you can really see like that connection of teenage boys like messing and slagging each other. Like and just the way that young lads go on.
they're very loyal friends as well. You know, they really are. Like my brothers have the same friends from school. I mean, I've never seen such loyalty in my life, you know. Like, I don't know, so far, I mean, they all meet up. Like, I think with my generation in the 80s, 1983 anyway, we all left, like, all my friends left Ireland. Every single one of them, every single one of my close friends left Ireland. And I met some of them in New York, I met some of them in San Francisco, some of them in San Diego, the same people in London, you know. And it was just that generation because there was no jobs in Ireland. So everyone left. I mean, it was dismal in Ireland. It was rotten. Like, it was hopeless. Plus, it had that Catholic shit. Yeah, Jesus. Rotten. Something to run from, you know. Like, I really want to get out of Ireland. Like, as I was saying, I think I was saying to Roisin, when I saw Jesus Christ Superstar, I was like, oh my God. So everyone doesn't believe this crap? I was like, I'm going wherever those people that made that movie are, I'm heading, because they're the only people that get what I mean, obviously Moses didn't part the fucking sea. Like, come on, like, you know, so I needed to find these people because this is what we were being pumped. And you wouldn't probably as much know it as much as I did. But the fact that I was thinking like that when I was 12 and 13 with a completely religious father means that people are capable of making their own mind up about religion, you know, even if they have loads of religion pumped into them, you know?
Yeah.
So it is possible to be a critical thinker, even if you're being brainwashed your whole life, you know?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Thinking.
And look at the Westboro Baptist Church girl, Megan Phelps. Is that her name? She's Roper, Megan Phelps Roper. She had that interview with J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
She was the one that Louis Theroux was speaking to because he spotted that in her. And he was saying to her, oh, you might want to have a boyfriend or something, you know. And she was like, no. And then when he went back to her, she was a bit older. And she was the one that ended up leaving, you know. And she's Megan Phelps Roper. Now, she is such a lovely person to listen to. She's really, really intelligent. But she also has a lovely grace about her for some reason. I don't know, but absolutely lovely woman. Lovely woman. Really love her.
And Estelle, you are an author, a poet, but you're also a very, very, I would say, you'd be a well-known feminist within Irish society, you know, and everybody would know about your strong feminism. But you, again, as you said throughout the show, that, you know, there is this fake feminism out there, you know, like male white privilege, or even if you're Irish privilege and white, like that. But there is a real fake feminism out there. But this is what I really admire about you. You say what you think, you stick to your values, and you talk common sense. So your feminism work. So you have your writing. Tell us about your feminism work that you do here for Women of Ireland. I think that's lovely what you do.
Well, I don't know what I do. Are you talking about like the constitutional stuff at the moment?
The constitutional stuff, the work, how you always stand up for women's rights. Because it comes natural to you. It's just natural.
But that's not like, I don't really see that as work. Like, it's not really work. It's just, you know, hanging out with other women. I think if you don't stand up for when you see injustice being done, and if you don't stand up, if you're a bystander, then when the shit really hits the fan, you have no one else to blame, and you're just as bad as the people who are inflicting whatever the injustice is on whoever the victims are. So if you see something going wrong and you don't say, hold on a second, and it is not even about women's rights, and that if you see something that's just fundamentally wrong happening, or that it's about to happen, and you notice it and you don't say something and try to do something, then you're not like, I just couldn't do it. I just wouldn't be able to just go, oh yeah, that doesn't matter. Because if I don't say it, then is anybody going to say it? You know, so that's kind of where it comes from.
Mhm.
It's just,
Here.
if I see something that's really wrong, then I have to say it. You know, I have to say that this is happening. I have to bear witness at the very least. And then I also want to be able to hear, you know, if I think something's really wrong, maybe it's not that wrong. So I'd like to be able to hear other people's points of view on it. You
Mhm.
know, because what about when the time comes, as I always say, what about when the time comes that you're absolutely fundamentally wrong in your thinking or what you're doing or whatever, and there's nobody left to tell you, you know, because you've driven everybody out, you've silenced everybody on everything, you're right or whatever, and that you could be really fucking up, you know, and there's nobody left to tell you. So that's kind of my
Yeah,
point of view.
it doesn't do anyone any good if people block each other, you know, for like with the amount of polarization that's going on in the world. If we don't talk to people that don't agree with us, we'll just all be sitting on our own in a little bubble with a remote control,
Yeah.
miserable, taking antidepressants and God
And
knows
that's what
what
we
else.
all do. Like, we can all get into our little bubbles. You know, you can think you're absolutely great and you know, everything you say is great because everybody's agreeing with you. But they could be just either A, afraid of you and afraid of saying anything to you, or B, that you're just so tedious and boring that they just can't be arsed saying anything to you, you know. So, you know, you need to get out, you need to be out on the street, you need to, you know, staying in, we're siloed in these little bubbles, as you're saying, Rosemary, and online. And it's
Echo
not good for
chambers.
us. Like, it's really
No.
important that we do actually go out and meet people and meet different types of people, and also not be talking about the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, not be talking, like, things can be really bad and we can become really obsessed with different issues or whatever, and sometimes we need to keep working on them, but you do need to take breaks and talk about some other shit,
Yeah.
you know, and hear some other shit, and like look at the joy that's going on around you and have the crack and laugh until you pee yourself. You know, you do need to do that. And to talk to different people who have never heard, you know, the thing that's obsessing you, to people who have never heard and don't give a shite, you know. Talk and listen to those people too, you know.
Yeah.
I think too, I know through my own work that, you know, it's really good when you do meet women that support other women. And I think that is something when you get, because there's a lot of, I found through my work that women don't really always support other women. And you got this false hashtag women supporting women. And I go, sometimes that's just word salad. So, because you know, women don't always support women, but when you find women that support women, they don't have to agree with one another on every topic and issue. But no matter what, you know that they got your back and they'll support you. And it's that camaraderie. That's something that's coming back. Because I think we had this fake feminism for a good about 20 years. But this ordinary, back to basics, common sense feminism, I would just say it's women's common sense is coming back.
Yeah, well, hopefully. But we do, like, that's not to, you know, not to be anti-intellectual either in that, because
Yeah.
we do need the thinkers, we do need the academics, and the academic feminists, we do need them. And I think, you know, we need to remember that within any grouping or organization or, you know, movement and political movement, that as feminism is and as women's rights advocacy is, it's a political movement more than anything, that you should be free to disagree.
Yeah.
And when rows break out, that's actually quite normal, You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
piling on is not normal, or looking
No.
for likes for your, you know, when you're being abusive to other women or whatever, and that you're just looking for likes online or whatever. That's not normal or healthy. But disagreement within a mass movement that has loads of different ways of doing things in different situations, you know, the feminism that's going to work in, you know, I don't know, high levels of Ivy League academia in the US is not the same feminism that's going to work for the Iranian woman
No.
who's, you
No.
know,
No.
wants to stop wearing her hijab, or maybe doesn't even want to stop wearing her hijab, just wants to not be abused or whatever. And you know, the poor woman who's working in the sweatshop in wherever, Bangladesh, making our clothes, she doesn't give a shit about, you know, the misogyny of, like, I don't know what.
Mm.
No,
Like,
she doesn't.
just be, you know,
Yeah.
she doesn't care about the dorky girls with the fella who looked at her crooked. You know, that doesn't matter to her. It
No.
doesn't matter to that woman.
I found in my final year in university, I went to Minute University so I graduated in 2018, and I found that with all of this, you know, straight white male stuff being taught in my geography classes, for God's sake, you know, and I did geography and international development as a double honors, but it was all of this stuff kind of sneaking in. And I remember my husband, like, came home and I was telling him what we were doing today and whatever, you know, the way you just striking up conversation. And I was like, yeah, apparently straight white men are the problem with the world, and because most of them are in power and all like this, you know, and he's just sitting there going, you know, you're married to a straight white male. You know, not all of us are bad. And then I remember that particular year, because I was doing a module on Africa and the international system, and like I was friends with a Nigerian woman, and I remember saying, you know, these courses are really like making you ashamed of being white. And she just said to me, and she says, but you didn't slave people. It was other people that slaved people. And like,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it was just like, because it was all this guilt, you know, this white shaming that was happening. But like, one of the things we learned in that class about the Africa and the international system was a lot of Africans sold their own people. Like, if they captured other people from different tribes and stuff like that, they actually sold Africans to
Well,
the
already,
slavery.
yeah, like
And
slavery
they never
was.
talk about this because they don't want to talk about Black people selling other people, like, you know. And it's
Yeah, but
like,
they were already enslaved. Like, I mean, Africa was full of slaves. They were enslaved by fellow Africans, you know. But I mean, the systematic enslavement and the transportation of people, that was white Europeans, and there's no need to pretend that didn't happen,
yeah,
or that we can just forget about
Plus,
the results of colonialism. Like, we're all living with that. But this identity politics thing that wants to erase history, basically. I mean, we can't learn from history if we're pretending that nobody used the N-word back in the 1960s and 50s and like for centuries. Like, we can't actually look and learn from history or from the history of art, you know, like erasing these words from novels
books. Yeah.
and stuff.
yeah,
And you're just going, but that's going to totally ruin the book. Like, then that book is not right anymore. It's not of its time. We can't even look at the history of art properly if we're going to reimagine the art in tune with, you know, 21st century mores. We can't do that. We're actually ruining art, and we can't actually study art anymore if what it was is destroyed. You know, so
and you
it's like
can't
across
learn
the
a
board. Like,
lesson from
identity
it.
politics is just ruining everything. It's a nonsense, and it's a neoliberal nonsense. It's not leftist. It's a neoliberal nonsense that's actually infecting so many things and breaking apart leftist politics and grassroots politics, because it's pitting people against each other. Because there's all the people going, what are you talking about? You know, this I just want to be friends with this person who's a black person, you know,
Yeah,
a
like
black Irish person. I have no issue with them. They have no issue with me, but we have to talk about my privilege.
yeah,
Are you
like one,
fucking
one thing
kidding me? Like,
one thing that like struck me once, I remember I was on Facebook, this was like a few years back, and I remember saying, you know, somebody was talking about race and stuff like this, and I says, well, I don't see the person's skin color, I just see the person, you know, because I'm just like, I just treat people for who they are. I was told that was white privilege, and I was like, where is this white privilege? That was my first time hearing that word, and all of this, and I was just like, what's going on? Like, you know, I was just saying that, like, you know, I look at the person, not the skin color or where they come
So
from. If
that's
they're nice to
wrong.
me, I'm nice to them. That's the way I am. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
and I also think, you know, lockdown has really ruined society, I think.
Yeah, I think
Everything's been on social media, and I'm reading a book.
constantly.
Yeah.
It was the constant, and I see it a lot with my age group, like early to mid 20s, that because people were so, and like the term chronically online, I don't like, I hate that term, it's so overused, but that we were, because we were stuck at home all the time. There was, you know, like people were going on their walks or doing whatever, but we were constantly just, the only way we could communicate with people outside of our house was by being online and
Mhm.
connected to the internet. And I think because there was all of these like other groups, that things that you wouldn't really have come across before because you weren't on your phone so much or you weren't online so much, that then all of these kind of the identity politics started to creep in like a lot because people were just online all of the time.
Mhm.
That, and then because they couldn't meet up with their friends and talk about it like in person, I think a lot of people just kind of took it on board because they were just consuming it the whole time, that they couldn't kind of bounce ideas off each other. And then now everyone is just like, oh, like you have to believe this, or you have white privilege, or you're this or you're that, like all of these labels to shame you into kind of just having a normal conversation that we would have had before when we were all just
Mhm.
like, you know, having disagreements with our friends or being like, yeah, no, I don't really believe that, or like I don't like that idea, but we'll agree to disagree. And now it's, no, you have to agree with me,
Yeah.
or we can't be
Yeah.
friends. And I think that really was solidified by COVID.
Yeah. Plus, I think
Like,
like homeschooling, like in the States, it probably ramped homeschooling up a lot. And if you don't have your mates like that you're playing with and you're over at your house dressing up, like obviously that was stopped for 3 years. So people were joining groups so that they could have friends, so they could belong. Because if you don't have your social life, like school is about social life more than about
mhm,
any other aspect. It's about how to get along with people, how to join in, how to be in teams, and how to negotiate and how to get along and compromise. And well, you can't do that if you're homeschooled. You're gonna, especially if you've only one sibling, and you know, like you need loads of people when you're growing up, or else you can't operate in the world. So the world
mhm,
is full of people.
I think school also teaches people how to disagree and how to
Yeah.
learn how to get on with people who you disagree with, or those interpersonal skills, those people skills. And, you know, I just think school, for me, I know because I had both. I have, I grew up in Saudi Arabia in Africa, and we were homeschooled. And then I come home to school, so it was like a mixture of everything. So even like the homeschooling, I found that sort of more lonely than anything else. It
Mhm.
was where school, the crack, and the day passed. But again, it comes from, you think the children we're going back to reading. That's where people sometimes get the joy of reading, is from school.
mhm,
All
Yeah.
learning about different books, different authors, and it's, and I think too, it's when you think about your book, Estelle, that your book is really, 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 is really bringing people back to basics of community life, friendship, loyalty, and just, you know, of how, especially with boys, how boys are just the different relationship boys have than what girls have. I just think that's, and knowing from my own son's friendship with his friends since from school. So I think I'm going to really enjoy reading that book, and
Well, hopefully.
we'll all be at your book signing, and we'll all be putting it up on social media. Here we are. But so, Estelle, how can people get in touch with you, and how can people find out more about you and your book, and how will they find out more about your book being launched?
Well, I'm online on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook as well. But Twitter is the best probably. And proper publicity will be starting soon. But if you look up Lilliput at the moment, and I think I'm not sure whether you can pre-order on other places as well. I know somebody pre-ordered through a bookshop in Scotland, so I don't know if other bookshops are doing it, and I encourage people to always go to their local bookshop.
And I think you keep us all, you know what, we will promote it as well coming up.
But you can pre-order it now. You can pre-order it now from Lilliput. Yeah.
Okay, so if you send me all the links, we can put everything in the description box in the video.
Okay, great, yeah.
And we'll keep plugging it, and maybe you'll come on when it's launched, and we can all.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to.
Oh, brilliant. So Estelle Birdy, because you have to go, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on. But thank you so much, because we really do. You are a real godsend to an awful lot of women here in Ireland, and we really appreciate that.
Right, thanks, Rosie.
So thank you so much indeed. Until next week.
Okay, lovely seeing you all. Okay, bye. Thanks a million,
Bye.
Rosie.